So here it's another point, like when you take something really complex and you simplify it, you also get a lot of trust for it from your users. And you kind of make the whole experience a little bit more human. Rather than using a machine, you feel like you are understood and you feel like your struggles are being taken into account by the people designing that machine.
Herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe Coffee Chat. Mein Name ist Joel Thalmann und ich interviewe inspirierende Menschen, die irgendwie einen Drive haben, die eine Vision haben, die Bock haben, was zu verändern. Und heute ist wird die Folge auf Englisch sein. Ich habe Alex hier. Es wird über sehr, sehr spannende Themen gehen und wir springen direkt auf Englisch rein. Nice to meet you, Alex. Thank you for coming to the studio and having a coffee with me. The concept of the podcast is that I will offer you a coffee and the time of the podcast is restricted by the coffee. So if it's empty, we are done. So this is the time to take your first sip. And after you take your first sip, I want that you introduce yourself because I want that you introduce yourself, that our audience will get to know you a little bit.
Hi, Joel. Nice to be here. My name is Alex, and I have a confession to make. I build AI products, and even though I do this every day, I still need Google Translate for probably 50% of my German emails that I got in my post. So bear with me if I mix up a little bit of Romanian, German, English in this. So I'm doing UX, and I designed for like 20 years, I think, around different topics. And I think one of the most important elements that drives me is this thing that excitement that I get from making complex topics really simple, almost humans, moves me forward. That's one point here. So I think over the years this thing toned down a little bit. And yeah, currently I'm based in Karlsruhe. I work at IONOS. I lead the UX for AI products at IONOS. And it's really, really an exciting topic to discuss and to talk with. It's something that I like doing every day. So
that sounds great. So you talked about AI and UX. AI, everybody knows what it is. Can you short or briefly introduce what UX is? Not everybody knows it, and what the thing about UX is that you enjoy doing, or what the thing is which makes you fills you up with energy when you do it.
UX, to define it, I think you have to think a little bit about machines. When you're building a machine, usually you look at all the small parts that make it up, all the features, all the itty-bitty elements that form the machine. I don't design the machine. What I design is the way you experience the machine. And this is pretty much reason and my drive every day when I go to work. I'm trying to get into the people's shoes. I'm trying to figure out how to make the machine not feel like a machine. And in the case of AI, for example, this becomes really, really important because one of the, let's say, issues of AI that you have to deal with is trust. And with AI, trust is really fragile. And making users feel AI is on their side is the most important part.
That they use it and they are not scared of it, or
exactly. So it feels like not this huge, ambiguous, confusing piece of technology, but as we did it in some of the projects that we work on, more like a companion, a friend that you work with every day, helps you out, understands you, knows your context, knows what you're trying to achieve, and then supports you with that. When this goal is achieved, I could say that I did my job pretty much. Because at that point, everybody would like to use that, and they are not getting scared.
Mm-hmm. So the developing of UX or like design of UX changed a lot the last years. How would you describe it when you started like designing UX and working on that part, and how it's changed the last years with AI developed, or like the development of AI?
I mean, I started a long time ago with building websites for photographers, for example. I moved then into a little bit of e-commerce, early payments, building big products, global products at 1&1, 1&1. Then into product ownership, now AI at IONOS. I think there is a red thread going on through the whole thing, and this is simplicity. And for me, that was true throughout my whole career. And I think right now with AI and over the whole period, if you look at it, you have different tools, you have different roles, you have different titles, different topics, but the goal is still the same. And the important part is to adapt, to learn. And I wouldn't say that things changed, only the tools changed. Because I personally feel that design will still be here. I will still be doing design, not as today, and probably using different tools. And adapting to the tools of the moment, I think it's one of the most important skills somebody should have right now and probably in the future. So learning how to learn, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So you would say people don't need to be afraid of how things change, or if like the designer or photographer, if they will lose their job because everything will be made with AI. The question is, how do you deliver your product or your service with different tools? Not like you don't take a camera anymore, or you do it in an AI tool, or you use a camera and refinish it through AI. Like before you took Photoshop to make it nice, and now AI will make everything nice, for example. So you think the tools will just change, and there will be still a place where a designer or a developer, or in like if we broaden it to the whole scope of AI, that there will be still a human or a person who just needs to use the tool?
I think there will always be a human involved, especially in creative industries. Tools will just help out. So you will have more time to focus on what's really important for you, the creative process. And that should be the goal.
Yeah, that's super important. How would you distinguish between the creative part, which a human needs to do, and the creative part and an AI can do, like ideation, or like even in design process, you can use a lot of AI tools. Is it similar, the creativity of a human than of AI, or which the AI tools can help you?
I mean, AI can infer some creativity, can guess a certain direction based on the guidance you give them. A human, on the other hand, will pretty much feel the change. And this is something that an AI will never do. When you look at something and you have taste, for example, for a certain way of framing a photo or a painting, and you know that is good, when you have a certain feeling about it, it's not like these KPIs are achieved, so the score of this painting is 10, so this means that it's a good painting. When a painting is great, you feel a connection to that painting. And when you create the painting, that connection becomes even more important. For AI, on the other hand, it can infer some of that creative process, but it's still driven by a human. So it will take even longer to reach a point where these two are comparable. And right now, I would say the best use for creative tools in AI is in helping this iterative process, because you could start with an idea, you are going into a certain direction that you have in your head, and AI can help you out, go fast and eliminate, let's say, probably variants that you don't like more easily, because it can produce some of them really fast. But still, to provide the ultimate experience, right now, it's your call, not the AI. So I can tell you right now about a project that we did. In the last year, I had a chance to work on a customer care AI chatbot. And it started really awesome and bold, huge technology involvement driven by that. A lot of databases, huge knowledge bases, huge answers, but customers didn't like it. So think about asking for your invoice, for example, and you are getting dumped a huge chunk of text about that. And it's like, maybe it's not what I wanted. So we said, like, this doesn't work. So we moved the question from what can AI do, which is what you asked earlier. So towards like, what is the customer feeling while using AI? And doing that puts you in a different perspective and reframes the whole concept of a chatbot towards the concept of a companion. A companion then can understand your context, can even emphasize with you, and to a certain extent even smoothly hand you over to a human if needed. So with that in mind, if you think of the invoice example, for a change, you could see like, okay, I have a problem with my invoice, and then the whole system should figure out what your intent is, what the topic is, but should be able to also decide to compare your last two invoices, for example, and figure out that, oh, there is a €10 difference between those invoices. So maybe this guy asked me this question due to this reason. And there is a really high chance that that is the case. So my answer in that case should be like, yes, you have a €10 difference in your current invoice compared to the last one. And that is due to, I don't know what, SEO trial that expired after 12 months and you forgot about it. So this makes it really tied to your context, really straightforward, and it also, as a user, respects your time pretty much, instead of giving you all the fluff and everything to scan through it, and you feel a connection. So the breakthrough with this is not like an AI technological breakthrough, it's a UX breakthrough, because you figure out, like, thinking of the product as a companion actually increases the trust a user puts into the product. And this in turns like helps with adoption and so on and so forth. So I would say like the most important learning I would get from this, like the surprising thing is like even small changes can have a huge impact. Think about like changing the way the chatbot addresses the user, or feeding into the chatbot the current location of the user inside your platform. This adds context to the conversation. So these things help out a lot. They need to be figured out and they are not figured out if you look from a technical perspective, but if you look from a UX perspective. So you're trying to reframe everything from the lens of the user and how the user would feel while interacting with that application or product or feature and so on. And currently we are doing a lot of that. So.
That's nice, and it's super important. It reminds me of when I used a different product from a different company, and I had an issue, and I wanted to use a chatbot or like just call the support, and it was only possible to just like tick answers or like ask questions which are like given. And the route I wanted to choose, there was no option for this, and it was so frustrating because I clicked it like twice and I didn't get the answer I needed, because I had a different problem which didn't fit in their scope, and then it's just sucks to not be able to get help. And then it's important if the chatbot would get that my feeling or I clicked through it twice and it didn't help me, to offers me like a human support or whatever.
Yeah, I think in the past and like the initial way, let's say, model of building chatbots was building this huge logic scheme of if then else questions.
Which makes sense,
but that is not what an AI should do. Because humans are more expressive than a statement which has only yes or no as an answer.
Yeah.
So figuring out the topic, it's a problem in itself, based on whatever the user writes in that little small chat box there. So I would say there is a huge leap forward that AI brought to the table compared to old style of chatbots. Yeah. How you use that makes a difference.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. And another thing that we did, like another project we worked, we had a problem to solve. How do you, for example, bring multiple models in front of users? Because it feels overwhelming. So if you talk with a system and you have to choose between, I don't know how many models, and you see their names in there, and it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And we figure out, okay, this is really, really filling up like the mental capacity of our users. So we thought about making it more relatable. And what we did is like said, okay, each model tuned and could have a different role. We can look at them as different, let's say, colleagues, co-workers. And we said, okay, let's give them a name. Let's create some avatars. Let's make a short description, like a proto-personality, if you want. So when you're talking about, I don't know, Dora, the developer, you know from the start what to expect when talking to Dora. So we went into this direction of having like copywriters, developers, designers, even startup advisors. So when you're interacting with this, you don't have to guess what you're going to get out of it. Because humans understand roles much easier than they understand what a AI model is or an LLM or something. So this pretty much brought a lot of people to this platform and helped them out to solve their problems. So here it's another point, like when you take something really complex and you simplify it, you also get a lot of trust for it from your users. And you kind of make the whole experience a little bit more human. Rather than using a machine, you feel like you are understood and you feel like your struggles are being taken into account by the people designing that machine. So I think one of the most important things, it's like, it feels kind of cheeky, but it's like technology disappears to a certain extent. It should disappear, but connections should be there with the user. And then you remove the fear of interacting with the product, even though you might not have an idea how that product works, because you feel a connection to it. Yeah. And for AI, that's really, really important, because the trust with AI system is really fragile.
Yeah.
And by our work that we are doing, we need to help out maintain that trust and even enrich it with more. So I would say, like, because of that, I don't design machines. I design the way people experience machines, or using the machine, pretty much.
When you say that you break down the complexity and make it simpler, and you told that it's a really important part of the user experience, what is, like, because, like, to explain something, it's always easy, but to make it simple and that everybody can understand it, or like that you don't need to think about how you interact with it. How do you make something that simple?
Well, everything starts with understanding what you're building. Why do you build it? And that comes by talking with your users, talking with your customers. And I know it's a subject that usually clashes with all the priorities in big companies. But what we learned in the past years and so is that we only got positive results whenever we looked into that courtyard, like the user, the customer, research courtyard. And research should always be part of the product development process. From the start, when you're figuring out what you want to build, why you want to build it, that's research. Should be there. In the middle, when you're actually building it, refining it, you should also test it. You should also ask your users about it. After you launch it, you should figure out if it serves the purpose and follow through to improve it and so on. This is not theory, and it's like people try to make these processes look in really like abstract terms, like, I don't know, double diamond or something like. As long as it feels natural in your team and you are doing it constantly, you will have benefits.
It's the same like when you start a new company. You should also talk to the potential user, or like the potential clients, if they use it or what's their pain. Otherwise, you develop a software or a product or a service which nobody uses. And it's I feel like it's often a discrepancy there, that people talk about it, but nobody does it, or not everybody does it. Also in small companies like ours. How would you say, for a young startup or a small company or a self-employed guy, what's the easiest way to get the feedback?
Just ask around you, anybody that you can get and you can interact with. It's not a script, it's not a, let's say, recommended approach. If you have an idea, you believe in it, you want to test it out, you can simply ask down to the cantina when you're talking, the guy who sits next to you, to give you an honest opinion about your idea. And this is how it works. Start with one person, then move to another. And then when you feel you have enough, you build something. You can even formalize it to a certain extent at some point, but there is no need as long as you are doing it and you start.
And I think it's also more important to ask those questions than to build an MVP or whatever, to get the feedback and not just build something.
Well, that is kind of changing right now with AI. because building an MVP becomes more easy.
Mhm.
In the past, you had to put down a lot of resources to build that MVP. So you need to do a lot of upfront work to understand what and why and how. With AI, you can just experiment. You experiment, you go into, Lovable, you write some prompts, you come up with a small little application, and you test that directly. This in the past was hard. Right now, you can pretty much create disposable MVPs every 1 or 2 days without that much effort or budget. And I think the AI democratized that. And people who would have the courage to experiment more will be the ones to come up with the next huge company, the next huge breakthrough. But still, they need to talk with their users all the time. That's the most important, I would say, aspect of any business. Unless you have a huge load of money, so and you don't care.
And still then, it's important to talk to the customer, because otherwise,
of course, that was a joke.
It's getting more difficult in a big company, especially if you have more people working on the project. Also, that everybody in the teams has the feeling and the understanding of the customer and their feedback. That it's not just one person who talks to all the customer, and to transfer this to the rest of the team. Like in a small company, if you're the founder and you did all the interviews and then you code your project or build it with Lovable or whatever, it's easier. But in a bigger company, it's more difficult, especially if you're a developer and just coding the whole day. How do you keep this in a big company, that it's still like these that you are still close to the customer?
I mean, that should be easy, and it's about connecting people. One example, thing that we did, and we usually do these kind of things. We are fortunate enough to have a UX lab in our office. And whenever we do experiments or tests, we invite people from outside. It doesn't have to be all UX. We invite developers, we invite marketing people, PR people, sales representatives, and they can watch the user tests, and they can watch the interviews, they can take notes. And this is the moment where actually those people connect with the product more than their perception of the product, because they see a user actually using it. And it's the moment where most wins happen, because they realize their model of the product is not the same as a user. And we do that pretty often, I would say. Every time when we have these tests, we're doing it. It's really important to do and to bring those people, to facilitate that those people take part into those tests. Also important, I would say, is simplifying access to that data inside the company. Because if it's, let's say you have one guy who focuses on research and everything is locked in his drawer and only he's the one who knows that, of course you cannot expect people to empathize with your users. But when everybody has access to the data, when you put it out there and say, okay, this is the latest research, everybody can read it, it's accessible to all the people in the company. Even if they don't feel like they want to do it, at some point they might. And for that chance, you still have to do it. So people in the company slowly become, let's say, involved in this research process, in this know your customer process, even without being a formal thing. So for us, and for me, what I try to do for the past years and so, is to make research feel like not such a huge thing or really exotic thing that happens, but a common practice, accessible to everybody. Bring people to the table, talk and share the results with everybody in the company. Doesn't matter. They might not read it right now, maybe tomorrow. But as long as you are open, they figure out that they don't need to be scared of research. They don't need to be looking at research as something that takes huge resource chunks from the product development timeline. And most of the time, if you work in my case, in an existing company with a lot of products, a lot of research can build on all the research. So you always have a starting point. That's really important. But you need to know it's there.
Yeah, and where you can find it.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is super interesting. I see your coffee is almost empty, so we are heading to the last question. You talked about in the beginning about the tools that they are changing, and that the key success factor in the time, or which always was and will always be, is that you adapt quickly to the new tools and that you are learning fast or easily. If you talk to a younger person who starts their career, how would you, or what advice would you give them to adapt quickly to the new tools and stay there always on the front?
Adapting and learning is the most important part. You still need to know how to read, how to write. You still need to understand STEM subjects. That's really important. Figuring out what's your condition to learn best becomes, I think, the key decision factor for the future. Because you might figure out that you're learning more in a certain room, in a certain environment, in a certain way. And this becomes a key, let's say, value increasing factor in your learning life. Learning how to learn. I think it's the most important skill somebody should have right now. And moving out from the perception that you learn to a certain point and then you do something, you always will have to learn. Because with AI, things change from 1 month to another, from 1 week to another.
Yeah.
If you're not being able to keep up, even to a certain extent, you don't have to know everything. In your own domain, at least, we will not progress. Because everything changes so fast that the tools of today will not be the tools of tomorrow. So keep on learning, be open, don't get stuck into what you know, and always talk to people. Because there are always people out there that are eager to share what they know. And for me, at least, that's how I learn the most. It's not about, searching a huge 200 pages or 300 pages book and read it and then you know the subject. It's about talking to people, talking about their experiences, what helped them, what not, how they are using certain tools. Because you might have a different perception about something that your own experience did not provide you with compared to the other guy. So you're trying to mix this knowledge up so you build something bigger.
Yeah, that's great. And I see this also with the tools we use for our video production company. that other guys are using different tools and they are sharing, hey, did you use this? And I don't like it. And they are involving that quickly. I think this is super important also because like you can ask AI for what is the best tool, but to know a different person who uses this tool, it's so much a shortcut, or it's like so much quicker than just to try it. And yeah, I love that, and it helps. I think it helps a lot.
Just a small parenthesis here is about tools and AI, like with vibe coding. So if you're trying to build something and work with, I don't know, with Copilot or something, and trying to build some small little application, you still need to know what framework is the best for that application. The AI will not tell you that. And this makes it even more important to keep on learning, to keep on adapting, because otherwise you are given some results that are approximate, inferred based on the experience of others, but they might not fit you.
Yeah.
So you still need to know how to ask the questions and how to evaluate the results. And it becomes a matter of trust. Because without knowledge, you trust everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you know your stuff, you are able to evaluate and figure out if the answer that you got from that tool is the best for you. And this makes the difference between somebody who is successful in using AI and somebody who is not.
Yeah. I like that as an end. Like, it's really also hopeful, and that we also play a part of it, and not AI is playing with us.
Yeah, I think AI should be like a cappuccino, for example.
Yeah.
To be like, it's not drawing attention to itself, but it smooths the day out.
Yeah, no, I like that, and also that it's like so much easier for everybody to use the tools and get creative and use their ideas in video production, in pictures, in text, in writing, in developing apps or websites. I like that, and I'm looking forward how this will change the market and our life. But I think this is the time where we end our podcast. In the end, I always want to ask, where can people connect with you if they want to know more what you're doing or need your help on UX? I think LinkedIn is the best channel.
I'm there. I will just give me a ping, and
I will put your LinkedIn in the show notes. And otherwise, I want to thank you for your time, for sharing all of your experience and your ideas and thoughts. And if you like more episodes like this one, please follow us on Spotify or YouTube. You can comment down below your questions and your thoughts about AI and why AI fuels your passion. And if you want to connect with more people like Alex, just follow us on Instagram, and you will be up to date for the new episodes. Alex, thank you for coming.
Thank you.